Hello everybody, this is Linda from North Central Texas, and I'm bringing you another dish my way, so to speak. It's going to be a gumbo. Traditionally, New Orleans style gumbo is a taste of the southern tradition. It's boldly flavored stew, bursting with fresh ingredients like bell pepper, sausage, stewed tomatoes. You can add crab meat, shrimp, crawfish, all that good stuff that they normally add in New Orleans or Louisiana. I don't have the fish, I don't have the crab meat or the shrimp or any of that seafood to go in there, so I'm fixing it my way, a little bit cheaper way to fix a gumbo that might be more feasible for a lot of people that are watching to fix it. You can either use hot sauce and Cajun seasoning. It adds a kick that makes a Louisiana dish a favorite of home cooks. I don't have Cajun seasoning, but I do have all the stuff that basically goes into Cajun seasoning, which is all kind of spices like garlic powder, onion powder, thyme, basil. I've got fresh basil, in fact. I've got dried basil and I've got fresh basil, so I can put both in there. I've got onion powders, garlic salt, parsley flakes. I've got chicken bouillon that I'm going to use. Paprika, smoked paprika. I've got thyme leaves, bay leaves, and onion powder. Chili powder, which is, I don't have the cayenne pepper, but chili powder is a hot seasoning as well. So I'm going to use that. That's a hot chili powder. So, and I've got oregano. And this is a Mexican oregano, but hey, we're going to put it in our gumbo. So let's get started. Like I said, I'm not using any seafood because it's a little bit costly to try to make a gumbo out of seafood. And a lot of people really can't afford, that type of gumbo. So this is a more cost-effective, friendly gumbo that more people can afford to make. First of all, I put a couple of tablespoons of olive oil in my pan. I'm going to turn my burner on. I'm going to come over here and I've got, I don't have the actual Cajun type sausage, but you can use any kind of kielbasa. This is a something similar. It's pork and venison. So I'm going to use that. And I'm not going to make the whole recipe. So I'm basically cutting my recipe down. I'm only going to use like half of my sausage. Because guys, it's just me and most of my family, I don't even know if they like gumbo, but they always like the Spanish rice when I fix it. But I'm taking half of that. I'm slicing it up real thin. You can see in just little wheels. Now the good thing about gumbo is you can use any type of a link sausage that you want. You can use chicken, you can use pork, you can use beef. You can use the seafood. I don't have the seafood available right now. Not the shrimp. Usually I put shrimp in my gumbo. But this is a different, less expensive way to fix it. So I'm just using the sausage. And I am going to add a little bit of chicken breast to it. So just put those in a single layer and let them start browning. I had just enough to kind of coat the bottom of my pan. See if I can show you. So we're just going to brown those while I cut up my chicken. And I probably should have took out 2 chicken pieces. Whoops, I'm about to lose it. Now, in the full recipe, they call for chicken thighs. I didn't want to make that many, and I didn't have the chicken thighs on hand. So I'm just using part of a chicken breast. Now, when you use your chicken thighs, you can just cook them in some boiling water if you want. Save your broth from it. And that will be your save the broth from your chicken when you cook it, your chicken thighs. Take your chicken thighs out, pull them apart, you know, shred them, whatever you're going to do. But that's our meat. We're going to let that cook a bit. Get a spatula. I mean, I put maybe like a half of a chicken breast in there. You know, because I'm cooking just for myself. I'm going to salt and pepper that. Get it up here to show you what I'm doing. You see part of it, maybe. But I wanted to show you that you can make a gumbo out of just about any type of meat. And if you've got seasonings, you know, herbs and different things in your cabinet, you can make your own Creole or Cajun seasoning just by adding what ingredients you have. Now, I think there's 1 or 2 of the ingredients I don't have, but that's okay. And it's perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and get my I've had my tomatoes sitting in scalding hot water for a few minutes. I'm hoping that'll just let them peel. It might not do any good because I didn't boil the water. It was not scalding hot, but it was hot enough that I'm hoping that it will help get the peelings off. We'll set these aside. I am so cramped up on my space here, y'all. And I am going to go ahead and put on a pot of rice. I'm going to cook 1 cup of rice. And we all know the 1 cup of rice, you put in 2 cups of water. And I wanted to get this done before it got too hot today, because it's going to be like 99, close to 100. So a little bit of salt in that. And you know how to cook rice. We bring it to a boil. I want to brown this sausage just a little bit. I want to also brown my onion. If I can get this open. And I've got about a half a cup of onion, chopped onion, white onion or yellow onion. I'm going to brown that right in there with that. Because the onion always tastes so much better when it's browned a little bit. And it was pretty cold, so it's cooled down the temperature a little bit. So I'm just going to turn that heat up a tiny bit. Also, we've got bell pepper. You remember the 2 bell pepper I showed in my garden tour the other day? I finally picked my bell pepper, and they were kind of turning a little bit from the heat. Now, any of these ingredients that you don't have, don't worry about it. Just put in what you do have. That's all about doing it your way. And I am saving my bell pepper seed. I'm putting them right over here to the side. And I will put them on a little dish. Cut that burnt part of the pepper off. If you don't have bell pepper, you don't have to put it in there. Now I want to show you how browned that is. That's what I wanted. I want it nice and browned. I'm going to turn that off a little, just a minute, so I can get all this out. Remember, you can do pieces of little chunks of beef, chicken, sausage, pork. Just because you don't have seafood doesn't mean you can't fix a gumbo. I'm going to put this right over here, and it's a little bit hot. Woo! A little bit hot. Let me get this up off my stove before it burns. Now what I'm going to do is turn my burner back on. I'm going to put a little bit more olive oil in here, a couple more tablespoons. I'm going to put my flour, and I started out with about a 1/4 cup of flour, but I don't know if I'm going to use all of that. I might, but I'm going to go ahead and use it all. We're making a roux. When you make a gumbo, you got to have a roux, and that's what thickens your stew up, basically. And I just mixed up my flour right into my oil. And we're going to let that cook till it's a nice brown, a dark brown. I don't want it to be burnt, but you got to cook it a little bit to cook that flour. Turn that temperature down just a little bit while I finish cutting up my pepper. And yeah, I'm using my little knife because here on this stove, I mean, you know, I can control it a little bit better than the big one. You know what? I think that's all the bell pepper I'm going to use in that. Because like I said, I'm not making a whole recipe. I'm trying to get it down to just for like 1 or 2 people size. I've got celery. Now this I probably will use my bigger knife. And notice we've got the greens and all. You know what? I think I'm going to go ahead and mix up some chicken bouillon. Turn that down because I don't want my flour to burn. I know you've often heard, if you've watched anything to do with Cajun cooking, they're always talking about a roux. I'm putting a couple of teaspoons of chicken stock or chicken bouillon in there because I don't have any chicken stock. It's about 2 cups for right now. I may add more later. But at this point, I can go ahead and add my chopped up onions, my peppers. I'm going to go ahead and chop up this celery. And like I said, if you use the inside of the celery heart part of your celery, not the outer tough ones, use your leaves and all. I've got basil, fresh basil, that I went and picked off of my bush this morning. I'm just going to put it here and give it a good chop. Or try to. It's not the easiest thing in the world to chop up. That's going in there. I've got a handful of okra here that ooh, that one's too tough. This one's good though. And since I'm not fixing a great big pot full of it, I didn't need a whole lot of okra. Throw that right in there. And you can even play around with the ingredients a little bit. Put the amount that you want of each thing in there. It's up to you. Now, my tomatoes. Well, I didn't have my water hot enough because these peelings are not coming off very easy. Now, if you don't have fresh tomatoes, you got a can of stewed tomatoes. Use a can of stewed tomatoes if you want tomatoes in there. I just so happen to have these out of the garden, so I'm using them. And I got a mixture. I got the little red ones. I got the sun gold. This is the sun gold right here. Pretty little sun gold tomato. Got a pretty color. It's gold where the other ones are red. All these peelings are going in the compost. I put food scraps in the compost. Now, when I put them in the compost pile, like food scraps that would attract ants, it's compost that I don't use right away. If I want to use it right away, I'll dig out compost from the bottom of the bin out there. I'll use that. Or I'll go ahead and build my own with a lot of the kale leaves and stuff like that. Because they don't attract ants. So that way you can go ahead and put that compost in your totes or your bucket and go ahead and plant in it right away. As long as it doesn't attract ants. You don't ever want to put anything in your totes or buckets, food scrap wise, that will attract ants if you want to plant in it right away. Now, if you don't want to plant in it right away, you can put any of it in there. And usually by the time you get ready to plant, everything is broken down. The ants have done eat what they want out of it. So you're good to go. So I don't throw any food scraps away, not even bread, cake, all that stuff. It goes right in my compost pile. Like I said, I just don't use it right away because I don't want it to attract ants to my seedlings when they come up, or my new plants. I need to get rid of that house phone. I don't use it anymore. It's just in a bundle to keep me at a lower rate. But it's annoying sometimes. And you know what? I put my rice back there and I didn't turn the burner on. But that's okay because it'll be a while before my gumbo's done to even use the rice, so. So I put in what basically would amount to 1 can of stewed tomatoes. Mine are just fresh tomatoes. Clean off my cutting board a little bit. It's got too much liquid on it. Now, another thing I'm going to do, I went out there and got me some perpetual spinach, and it's already started to wilt down because I did wash it and get it dried a little bit. I'm just going to roll it up and start cutting. And we don't want the stem, so that all goes in the compost. I'm going to try to cut it this way a little bit because I don't want the real long strings. That should be good. This is going to make it a healthy gumbo anyway when we got all this other stuff added in. Now, another thing I need to do, oops, clean some of this up so I can get here. Go ahead and stick this back in the refrigerator. This is Gumbo My Way, y'all. Now I'm going to add my onions, my sausage, and my chicken back in. And it's going to be real thick. I mean, you can see that. It's pretty thick. Now, this is where your seasoning comes in. I'm going to leave that there because I need to cut up my little spring onions that go on the top. Well, I can wash that and do it later. Get some of this out of the way. Turn that down just a tiny bit. I got my chili powder, which you can use cayenne pepper if you have it. I'm out of it, so I'm just going to put the chili powder, which is a hot pepper. And you season that to your taste. I'm going to put in smoked paprika. Just a little dash or two. I'm going to put in, see, we don't need, well, we can use a little bit of Italian seasoning, not much. I like it all in mine. I've got a bay leaf I'm going to put in there. Now, you know you don't eat the bay leaf. That's just for seasoning. You take it out when you go to eat. I'm going to sprinkle in some thyme, dried thyme. was probably about a quarter to a half a teaspoon. Parsley flakes. I've got onion powder. I love my onion powder. I got garlic powder. I've got pepper, black pepper. And I've got dried basil that I have done. And we're going to dry some. See, it's so dry. I dried it in my dehydrator till it just crumbles up. And I dry basil every year because I do use basil. And now we got our oregano. I need to get this open. Just cut a corner of it out, so I'll shake some basil in my hand. That's about it. Not quite a teaspoonful of basil. Stir that all up. This is how I store my garlic that I bring in from the garden after it's dried. I just cut off a leg of a pantyhose or foot of it, because I don't have those net pouches. But see, I can even put more in there. But I'm going to get a couple of cloves out of here. I think I got a couple of loose ones at the top. Because I'm going to put some fresh garlic in there too. That should be good. And then I can just tie it in a loose knot and put it back. And it keeps it all together. My fruit bowl over here is full of garlics, avocados, you name it. Now my rice has come to a boil, so I am going to put the lid on it, and then I'm going to turn it down. Turn it down basically as low as it'll go. This is a country kitchen, y'all. Sometimes these little pieces of garlic can be a bitch. Now squish it and then chop it the best you can. Now, I've got about 3 little cloves of garlic, fresh garlic. I'm going to give this a taste test for seasoning. Whew, it's hot. That's perfect. Now we're going to put the lid on it and let that simmer for about an hour. And then we'll be back. Well, it's been almost an hour, you guys, and I think our gumbo is done. I know my rice is done. Let's see what we can do with it. And again, make sure you cook that on the lowest heat, because you want it to tenderize everything, cook all your vegetables down, but you don't want to burn it or anything. Look how nice that looks in there. How nice and dark that color is. That's what you want. I've got a bowl here, because usually I serve my gumbo in a bowl, not so much in a plate, but I mean, you can do either way. But I'm going to get some of this rice. Turn this off because I think it's cooked enough. Don't that look good? Spill some on my bowl. Clean that up. And I went and got some green onion out of the garden. This is something that your Egyptian walking onions are good for. Just to take a couple of them and top your dish with it. Look at that. Don't that look good? Oh my goodness. Let's come over here at the table. Move the camera. But don't that look good, y'all? New Orleans style gumbo without the seafood, y'all. There's no seafood, no shrimp, no fish, no crawdads or nothing like that in there. It's chicken and sausage, and we made a really good gumbo. And the other ingredients like the onions, the tomatoes, the bell pepper, all the okra, all of that was right out of the garden. Y'all take the first bite. Go ahead, open wide. Dear Lord, bless this food we're about to eat. Amen. Oh, and I forgot to tell you. If you wanted to add shrimp, your shrimp has to be already cooked toward the end, or you can put in raw shrimp as long as it's deveined, deshelled, and all that. Throw your shrimp in the last 5 minutes of your cooking time, because it only takes about 5 minutes to cook shrimp. And that's what I would have done if I'd have had shrimp, but I don't have it. But I wanted to show you how you can make a really good gumbo without shrimp, without any type of seafood to go in it. This was just sausage and chicken. Tomatoes out of the garden, okra out of the garden, onions out of the garden, bell pepper out of the garden. That is so good. Y'all take another bite. That is so good. I love it. But I only used about 1/4 of the recipe to make this. And still, I've got plenty of gumbo up here. But I only used like 1/4 of the recipe. If I'd have cooked that whole recipe, it would have been a great big pot full of gumbo. And I definitely didn't need that much. But yeah, y'all fix you a pot of gumbo using sausage, chicken, pork, beef, whatever meat you got around. Your link sausage, whatever. That's another winning dish there, y'all. I had a seed on me. A tomato seed. I don't know where that come from. This is basically a poor man's gumbo. Because you know, fish, shrimp, the crawfish, all this other stuff that they normally put in gumbo is pretty expensive. But this is a less expensive way that you can fix a good gumbo. Just use your sausage, your chicken, beef, whatever you have on hand. And like I said, when the original recipe, I think they used 4 chicken thighs. They boiled them, shredded the meat off the bone, used the broth to go back in the gumbo instead of the water like I did, because you know I put bouillon in mine, to which you had to add water to the bouillon. And you can use that water that you cook those thighs in as your bouillon, your chicken bouillon. And just make it with chicken. If you've got the sausage, add your sausage. Add whatever you want to your dish. It's your dish. It's your gumbo. You can put what you want to in it. And with that, I'm going to call this video an end. I'm going to go ahead and finish eating my bowl of gumbo. And I'll see you on my next one. Love y'all. Bye now.